Hey, deep divers, ready to explore some seriously cool archaeology? We're about to set sail for the Philippines. Today's deep dive is all about some amazing discoveries that might just rewrite history as we know it.
Sounds like an adventure.
It is. We're talking ancient seafaring tech, like way ancient. The kind of stuff that makes you rethink how far back human ingenuity actually goes.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
Okay, so we're diving into this article. And get this. It basically says, forget Magellan or Columbus. We're talking about skilled navigators sailing the open ocean like tens of thousands of years ago.
Whoa, hold on. Tens of thousands of years. That's like way before what we usually think of as advanced seafaring.
Exactly. And that's what's so mind-blowing about this research. It really challenges the whole idea that technological advancements only came from Europe and Africa way back in the Paleolithic era. You know what I mean?
I see where you're going with this.
Oh.
It's like we're talking about a whole other center of innovation happening at the same time, but completely separate.
You got it. And guess where this is all happening?
Okay, you got me. Where?
The Philippines, an archipelago. Island, Southeast Asia, to be precise. Never connected to mainland Asia by land bridges.
Okay, now that's really interesting. How did ancient humans even get there? I mean, we're talking super early times here.
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
Right. And it's what makes this discovery such a game changer. So researchers have been analyzing these 40,000-year-old stone tools from the Philippines. And you know what they found? Evidence of plant processing.
Plant processing. Okay, I'm not seeing the connection to seafaring yet.
I hear ya. But think about it. Plant processing, specifically the extraction of fibers.
Fibers. Wait a minute. You're talking ropes, nets, bindings.
Bingo. All the essentials for building some pretty sophisticated boats. And not just any boats, we're talking deep-sea fishing gear, too.
Okay, now that's starting to make sense. But do we have any proof that they were actually fishing out in the open ocean?
No, we've got proof. All right. Archaeological sites all over the Philippines, Indonesia, and even Timor-Leste have turned up remains of deep ocean fish, tuna sharks, the whole shebang.
Wow. No way. So they weren't just fishing along the coast. These early Filipinos were going way out there.
You know it. And it gets even better. They found fishing hooks. Gorgeous. Those pointed bone tools for catching fish. And even net weights.
Okay. You're blowing my mind here.
Ugh.
This totally changes how we picture these ancient societies.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking serious maritime skills thousands of years earlier than anyone thought possible.
Right. It's like a complete paradigm shift. And it all happened while those advancements we usually associate with the Paleolithic era were taking place in Europe and Africa.
It's like this parallel development was going on. Completely independent, but equally impressive.
Totally. And it just shows you how interconnected human history really is. You know, it's not just a single story. It's a whole tapestry of different cultures innovating and advancing in their own unique ways.
I like that. A tapestry of innovation. So if they achieved all of this with what they had back then, imagine what they could have done with today's tech.
It's mind-blowing, right? But before we get ahead of ourselves, we still need to figure out how they actually built those boats.
Right back to the basics. So those plant fibers we were talking about, they're pretty crucial to the whole boat building process.
Absolutely. Researchers believe they were woven into those all-important ropes, nets, and bindings, creating sturdy, seaworthy vessels.
Makes sense. You need a strong boat if you're going to be battling tuna and sharks out in the open ocean.
No kidding. And get this, to test their theories, these researchers launched something called the FLOW Project.
FLOW Project? What's that?
It's incredible. They're actually trying to recreate these ancient watercraft using only materials and techniques that would have been available 40,000 years ago. Talk about dedication.
Wow, that's like real-life experimental archaeology, stepping right into the shoes of those ancient boat builders.
Isn't that cool? I mean, to think about the skill and knowledge they must have had, it's just remarkable. And the fact that we're only now beginning to uncover the full extent of their ingenuity, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
You're right. It's like this discovery has opened up a whole new world of questions and possibilities. And who knows what else we'll find as we keep exploring this region.
Exactly. Our understanding of the past is constantly changing with each new discovery. It's a pretty exciting time to be studying archaeology, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. There's so much more to learn. And I have a feeling this is just the beginning. So what are your first impressions? What's standing out to you the most about all of this?
Well, for me, it's got to be the sheer scale of it all. I mean, to think that these ancient Filipinos were sailing the open ocean and going deep sea fishing tens of thousands of years ago, it's just mind-blowing. It really challenges that Eurocentric view of history that we often get taught, you know?
I hear you. It's a powerful reminder that innovation and technological advancements weren't limited to Europe or Africa. We needed to broaden our perspective and recognize that there were likely multiple centers of innovation happening all over the world simultaneously.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder if there are any connections between these seemingly separate groups. Could there have been contact and knowledge sharing between those early seafarers in Southeast Asia and other parts of the world?
That's a great question. And it's something the researchers are actively looking into. While there's no solid evidence of direct contact during that time period, the possibility of indirect cultural transmission through trade networks or migration patterns is definitely worth considering.
It would definitely change our understanding of human migration patterns, too. If they were already sailing across vast distances 40,000 years ago, it suggests a level of skill and knowledge that could have helped humans spread across the globe much earlier than we thought.
It's a fascinating puzzle. And these findings from the Philippines add a really important piece. It just goes to show how important it is to keep exploring and investigating archaeological sites in Southeast Asia and other regions that have often been overlooked in our traditional narratives of human history.
Speaking of exploring, let's dive a little deeper into that FLOW project you mentioned earlier. You called it an exercise in experimental archaeology. Can you tell us more about what the researchers are actually doing and what they're hoping to learn?
Sure. The FLOW project is this amazing multidisciplinary effort that brings archaeologists, boat builders, and other experts together to recreate these ancient watercraft. And the catch is they can only use materials and techniques that would have been available 40,000 years ago. It's a super meticulous process. They have to identify the right plant fibers, experiment with different weaving techniques, and build prototypes based on what they've found archaeologically.
That sounds incredibly challenging, but also really rewarding. What kind of insights are they hoping to get from this hands-on approach?
Well, one of their main goals is to really understand the challenges and the innovations involved in building seaworthy boats using only natural materials. By actually recreating these boats, they can test different construction techniques, see how well they actually float, and get a much better appreciation for the skill and ingenuity of those ancient boat builders.
It's like they're stepping back in time and experiencing the past through the eyes of those early seafarers. I bet it's pretty amazing to actually sail one of these recreated boats.
Oh, absolutely. The project isn't just about building the boats. They also want to see how they function. They're planning to sail these vessels replicating voyages that those ancient Filipinos might have undertaken, which means they can gather data on navigation techniques, sailing capabilities, and get a feel for what it was really like to be a seafarer back then.
It's like bringing history to life. And it also makes me wonder if there are any lessons we can learn from those ancient techniques and apply them to modern boat building. Maybe there are some sustainable and resource-efficient methods that could inspire some new innovations today.
That's a really interesting thought. And you're right, there's a growing interest in rediscovering and adapting traditional knowledge and practices, especially when it comes to things like sustainable construction and eco-friendly design. Who knows, maybe the FLOW project could help us develop more sustainable and resilient boat building methods for the future.
It's amazing how the past can inform and inspire the present. But beyond the practical applications, I think there's something truly profound about the human spirit of exploration and innovation that this whole discovery reveals.
I couldn't agree more. It's a powerful reminder that the desire to explore, to push boundaries, to seek out new horizons, it's all part of what makes us human.
Yeah.
It speaks to our resilience, our adaptability, and our never-ending quest for knowledge and progress.
It really makes you wonder, what other incredible feats of human ingenuity are still out there hidden beneath the waves, just waiting to be discovered?
That's the beauty of archaeology and exploration. There's always something new to learn, something more, to uncover something else to be amazed by. With each discovery, we add another chapter to the human story, challenging our assumptions and deepening our understanding of who we are and where we come from.
This deep dive has definitely been an eye-opener for me, and I'm sure our listeners are feeling it too. But before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about challenging the traditional Eurocentric narrative of history.
Yes, that's a crucial point. Yeah, and one that deserves a bit more unpacking.
It's so easy to fall into the trap of thinking about history as this linear progression with Europe as the starting point and all other cultures trailing behind. But discoveries like this one really shake things up.
Absolutely. It's important to remember that the Eurocentric perspective is a product of historical power dynamics and biases that have shaped how we view the past. For centuries, European exploration and colonialism led to a focus on European achievements while downplaying or even erasing the contributions of other cultures.
So when we talk about these ancient Filipino seafarers challenging conventional thinking, we're really talking about challenging that deep-seated Eurocentric bias.
Right, exactly. And that's why discoveries like this are so vital. They force us to re-examine our assumptions, question the narratives we've been taught, and acknowledge the diverse contributions of all cultures to the broader story of humanity.
It's about recognizing that innovation and ingenuity have always existed everywhere, often developing independently and sometimes even surpassing what was happening in Europe at the same time.
Precisely. It's not just about rewriting history to make it more accurate. It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of human civilization and appreciating the rich diversity of our collective past.
It's about celebrating the achievements of all cultures, no matter where they are on the map or how dominant they were in the past.
And it's about inspiring future generations to approach history with a more critical and inclusive lens, to see that the human story is far more complex and multifaceted than any single narrative can capture.
I think this deep dive has definitely done that for me. It's sparked a new sense of curiosity and wonder about the ancient world and all the stories that are still out there waiting to be told.
Me too. And for our listeners who are eager to learn more about this incredible discovery, I highly recommend checking out the full article in the Journal of Archaeological Science. Reports it's a fascinating read with tons of details and insights that we just couldn't cover in our deep dive today.
And if this has ignited your curiosity about the ancient world and the amazing diversity of human history, don't stop here. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that sense of wonder alive. There are countless mysteries waiting to be uncovered. And who knows? Maybe you'll be the one to make the next groundbreaking discovery that changes everything we thought we knew about the past.
That's the beauty of knowledge and discovery. It's a journey that never ends. And as we continue to explore and learn, we'll undoubtedly find more surprises that challenge our understanding of our place in the grand narrative of human history.
So until next time, keep diving deep and stay curious.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, were these different groups of early humans totally isolated, or could there have been some kind of exchange going on? You know what I mean?
That's a great question. And it's one that researchers are really grappling with right now. I mean, think about it. If they were already sailing the high seas 40,000 years ago, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities for how humans might have migrated and interacted.
Right. Maybe they weren't as isolated as we thought.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We tend to think of human history in these neat little boxes.
Yeah.
But the reality is probably a lot more messy and interconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. So what about that flow project you mentioned, the one where they're actually trying to build these ancient boats? Can you tell us a little more about that?
Sure. So the Flow Project is this really cool experiment. It's basically a bunch of archaeologists, boat builders, and other experts getting together to recreate these ancient boats. But here's the catch. They can only use materials and techniques that would have been available 40,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So no fancy modern tools or anything like that.
Yeah, that's going to be a challenge.
Oh, it definitely is. They have to figure out which plants to use for fibers, how to weave them together, how to construct the boats based on the archaeological evidence. It's a super meticulous process.
So what are they hoping to learn from all of this?
Well, for one thing, they want to get a better sense of just how challenging it was to build seaworthy boats using only natural materials. You know, I mean, it's one thing to look at the archaeological evidence, but it's a whole other thing to actually try to build one yourself.
That's true. I bet they're getting a whole new appreciation for the skill and ingenuity of those ancient boat builders.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
And by recreating the boats, they can test out different construction techniques, see how they perform in the water, and really get a feel for what those early seafarers were up against.
It's like stepping back in time. It must be pretty amazing to actually sail one of those boats.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And that's actually part of the plan. They're going to actually sail the boats, replicating some of the voyages that those ancient Filipinos might have taken, which means they can gather data on navigation techniques, sailing capabilities, all sorts of stuff.
It's like bringing history to life. It's pretty cool.
It really is. And, it makes you wonder if there are any lessons we can learn from those ancient boat building techniques. Maybe there's some things we can apply to modern boat building, like maybe there are more sustainable or efficient ways of doing things that we've forgotten about.
That's a good point. We're always looking for more sustainable ways to do things these days. Maybe the past holds some answers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like this whole project is a reminder that there's a lot we can learn from traditional knowledge and practices, even when it comes to something as modern as boat building.
So it's not just about the past. It's about the present and the future, too.
Exactly. And, beyond all the practical applications, I think there's something really beautiful about this whole discovery. It's a reminder that humans have always been explorers, always been innovators. It's in our DNA.
I love that. It's like a testament to the human spirit, right?
Yeah, exactly. That desire to push boundaries, to see what's out there, to connect with the world around us. It's what makes us human. And it's a story that's been unfolding for tens of thousands of years.
And who knows what other stories are still out there waiting to be told.
Right.
Exactly. That's the beauty of archaeology. There's always something more to discover. And each new discovery has the potential to change how we see ourselves and our place in the world.
This deep dive has definitely been an eye-opener, and I'm sure our listeners are feeling it too. But before we wrap things up, I want to go back to something you said earlier about the Eurocentric view of history.
Yes. That's a really important point and one that I think we need to unpack a little bit more. You know what I mean?
It's like we've been told this one version of history for so long, and we just accept it as fact.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that history is always being written and rewritten. You know what I mean? It's not this objective truth. It's a story that we tell ourselves. And the way we tell that story depends a lot on who's doing the telling.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about challenging the Eurocentric view of history, what are we really talking about? Like, what needs to change?
Well, for starters, I think we need to be more aware of the biases that shape how we view the past. You know, like for centuries, European powers dominated the world, and that dominance influenced how history was written. It's like their perspective became the default, and anything that didn't fit into that narrative was often ignored or dismissed.
So it's not just about adding in a few missing pieces.
Yeah.
It's about fundamentally changing how we think about history. Exactly. It's about recognizing that there are multiple perspectives, multiple stories, and that all of them are important. You know, it's like a puzzle. You can't get the full picture if you're only looking at a few pieces.
That makes sense. So how do discoveries like this one about those ancient Filipino seafarers help us change that perspective?
Well, they challenge our assumptions, you know? Like we've been told that Europe was the center of innovation and that everyone else was lagging behind. But then you find evidence like this that shows that people in other parts of the world were doing incredible things at the same time. Sometimes even more advanced things.
It's like those ancient Filipinos were writing their own chapter in the story of human innovation.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about archaeology. It's constantly revealing new chapters, new perspectives, new stories that challenge our understanding of the past. And it reminds us that the human story is far more complex and interconnected than we often give it credit for.
So it's not just about those ancient boats and those early seafarers. It's about a much bigger picture.
Right. Exactly. It's about recognizing the diversity of human experience, the ingenuity of people all over the world, and the interconnectedness of our shared history.
And it's about realizing that there's still so much more to learn, so much more to discover.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so exciting. You know, every new discovery opens up new questions, new possibilities. It's a never-ending journey of exploration and learning.
I love that. And I think this deep dive has definitely been a great example of that. It's sparked a new sense of curiosity for me, and I hope it's done the same for our listeners.
Me too. And for anyone who's interested in digging a little deeper, I highly recommend checking out the full article in the Journal of Archaeological Science. Reports. It's got all the details and insights that we couldn't fit into our conversation today.
And if this has got you thinking about the ancient world and all the mysteries that are still out there waiting to be uncovered, don't stop here. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep that sense of wonder alive. Who knows? Maybe you'll be the one to make the next big discovery.
That's the beauty of knowledge. It's a never-ending journey. And the more we explore, the more we learn about ourselves and our place in the grand scheme of things.
So until next time, deep divers keep exploring and keep those questions coming.